So welcome. You know, when I make food, what do I love it to be? I love it to be obviously delicious, but I love it to be sometimes something that is just like fun to make, or maybe different for you to make, or just something that you kind of come home to and kind of can just like slowly make and just relieve the stress of the day. That's what cooking is for me. If it isn't for you, let's make it that. This is a delicious risotto. And risotto as its own is a pretty simple dish, but it can be upped with different additives. So we are gonna separately roast some shrimp and some asparagus to kind of make it, this is the first asparagus here, and it's obviously way too early for me to actually have my asparagus pop up in the garden. But when I saw this, I thought, yes, I'm ready for asparagus. And we're gonna have shiitake mushrooms in it and tons of Parmesan. It is a delicious risotto. If risotto has scared you, this is the one for you because full of flavor, pretty simple steps, super, super delicious. So in my kettle that I am gonna make my actual risotto in, I have a few pieces of bacon that I slowly was frying and just kind of rendering out all that bacon fat. So you could do just olive oil, but when you do a bacon grease like this, I'm gonna leave that grease down in there, and that is gonna be my starting for the flavor. So I'm gonna saute my onion right here in that bacon grease. I mean, this is full on Midwestern thing. Growing up, yes, and still, I always will have a drippings container. When I am getting done with the bacon, I'm gonna save that grease because one, fat is fat. So it is fat and it has tons of flavor in it. And that's exactly what you want. You want all that flavor. So I'm gonna just let that go into the bacon grease, let it saute till it's translucent. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, not too much because bacon has some salt, so it doesn't need too much. So we're gonna slowly let that just soften the onion before we move on. So in with that, we're gonna do some shiitake mushrooms. The reason I'm doing shiitake, they are sturdier than just a button mushroom. They stay together better, their texture stays. They don't get slimy sometimes like a mushroom, like just a button can for cooked, when it's cooked for a long time. So I'm gonna cut off the stems because unlike other mushrooms, cremini and all the others, they have a stem that it's pretty tough and the texture isn't the best. So you can save the stems and use them in a vegetable stock, just throw in your freezer, or any other stock. They just kind of add that good flavor. So I'm kind of keeping these in some nice slices. And so as they cook, they'll stay in those slices, but they're gonna hold that texture and they're just gonna be delicious. So I'm gonna add these in right with the onion because I want them to saute before we start actually cooking the rice and all the other components. So we're gonna put those in there. We're gonna let those slowly soften. And while they are, we can move on to our asparagus. When you buy asparagus in the store, a lot of times, just because it has been shipped, maybe picked earlier, it starts losing moisture. And so the ends of it, you do have to cut off. And yes, it looks like waste. Again, you could use these in vegetable stock. When I grow it in the garden, obviously, here in a couple months, it's gonna have tender all the way through when I pick it. But we're just not always that lucky. So I'm cutting it in, good inch-sized pieces, and then we're gonna roast it. So instead of cooking it in the actual risotto, which if you would do that, it would get, again, kind of slimy. The texture is not the best. So instead, I like to cut it into pieces and just put it on my roasting pan. And this is great because it can actually just cook with the shrimp. They cook at about the same time, especially when you cut this up. And that's just like the perfect way. So my shrimp I always just buy peeled and deveined shrimp, but I like them to be raw. They have the tail on, which I just think looks nice. And I don't like the ones that are pre-cooked. I think you get a lot more flavor when you can roast them at home. I think that's exactly what you want to do. So for this, what I'm doing is doing a drizzle of olive oil on each thing. This is oftentimes how I'm going to cook my asparagus, even when I'm getting it fresh from the garden. Same with my shrimp. I'm going to do a quick roast. Shrimp is a great weeknight meal because it has, of course, protein, but it cooks super fast. So it's just wonderful to be able to have. So I am going to smash some garlic on top. I'll do some over the shrimp here. And then I'll do some over the asparagus just to make sure they both get some of that. Growing garlic at home, again, I've talked about this. I'm sure you've heard it. If you haven't, welcome to the soapbox. That is growing your own garlic. I love it. I think it's super easy. You can get bigger, better cloves every year by picking only the best ones to plant the next year. So with that garlic, I'm gonna add some salt. And to both of them, shrimp, like most meats, need seasoning really well because that's gonna actually help flavor them. I'm gonna do some fresh ground pepper, This is all just super, super simple. When it comes out, we're gonna do a fresh squeeze of lemon on it. It'll be delicious. So I'm gonna just toss them. Try to get that garlic dispersed, the salt and pepper all over. Same with that shrimp, we're tossing it. And then just slightly, not perfectly, but slightly just get it out to an even layer. That way it cooks even. If the shrimp really overlaps each other, they can kind of not cook evenly, and you want them to really cook evenly. So I have that all done. I'm gonna wash my hands, we're gonna pop this in the oven, and it is risotto time. So we put the shrimp and the asparagus in the oven to roast, and now we're gonna put our arborio rice right into our onion and mushroom mixture. So the onions have softened, the mushrooms have just begun to cook, and now we wanna just slightly toast that rice in the oil. Arborio rice is what you use when you make risotto. The way it soaks in the liquids, it gives you that creamy, delicious texture at the end, and it does make a huge difference. So I just wanna slowly, for a couple minutes here, just let that rice absorb some of that oil, toast just slightly, then we're gonna add some white wine. The rice is toasted, and you just want it to be slightly toasted. We're not trying to burn anything, and now we're gonna add some white wine. Now yes, you can do this without white wine, but it does add that flavor and it adds a little bit of acidity. So the whole thing with risotto here is that we are slowly building the flavors, and we're slowly letting that rice absorb the liquid. Instead of inundating it all with liquid right in the beginning, it wouldn't absorb it evenly, and then you would get rice that isn't maybe evenly cooked. It would kind of get unevenly cooked. This way, we're letting each component kind of absorb into the rice, gets that flavor in there, and then move on. So once the white wine is absorbed, which just takes a few minutes here, we're gonna add some stock, and I have it right here. I have it warmed up, some chicken stock, it's ready, it's steaming, and we're gonna go a ladle at a time. Guys, I know it sounds like, I don't wanna babysit this. We're talking like 20 minutes then from now on. We're gonna add some stock, we're gonna let it absorb, and as you can see, you just want it to be kind of somewhat dry. So when I put that wine in, we had that liquid, it has pretty much now absorbed, and as you can see here, there's not liquid sitting on the bottom of the pan. We got some of those brown bits from the bacon, which, hello flavor. And when you start hearing that sizzle come back, you know it's really drying out. So now I'm gonna start adding a ladleful of this, and I'm gonna let it absorb and then just keep moving on. So I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna enjoy this, because that's part of it. You have to enjoy your food process to really enjoy the food. So I'm gonna let it absorb, stir it, add more. Guys, this is the little bit of a step that is actually pretty easy. It just takes a little bit of time, and it's totally worth it. So every time you add a ladle, you just want to keep it somewhat stirring every so often, and then when you look in and you start seeing it dry up on the bottom, so as I push it to the side, you're not seeing tons of liquid, then you know that you can just come over, get a ladle full, put it in there, stir it a little bit, and let it simmer again. That's how simple it is, and as the rice slowly is absorbing that stock, it is evenly cooking and becoming creamy. It's getting that right texture. So that's why this step is kind of important. You wanna take a few minutes here, just stir it, slowly add, and you will be so glad you did. So at this point now, my asparagus and shrimp is done. I'm gonna pull it out. Look at those vibrant colors. Super simple, super quick. That's what I love. I'm gonna just set it there so it can slightly cool off while that is finishing up. I do want to squeeze some lemon over it. I just think that adds such good flavor, and I like that hit at the end. And so same with the shrimp. I'm just gonna add that lemon right over the top. You get that beautiful, wonderful acidity, citrus. It's just exactly kind of what you want to wake everything up. So I'm gonna keep stirring, finishing up with the stock, then we'll have a creamy risotto. We're gonna put it all together. It already smells good. Yeah, this is a good meal. It can be a weekend thing, it can be whatever you want. The risotto's done. So risotto's one of those things that to tell when it's done, you kind of need to taste it. Taste the rice, make sure it's tender and creamy. And as you can see, it has a creaminess to it, but rice is a grain, so as it sits, it's gonna keep absorbing some of that liquid. So you want it to be a little bit on that side where it seems a little bit more liquidy than you think, because it's gonna actually keep doing that. So I have here, of course, Parmesan cheese. I did just a big, thick kind of grate on it because I wanted it just to be big pieces that are melting into this. That is gonna complement that wonderful, like, delicious bacon grease that started it, which really does kind of come through. But then that nice kind of salty, briny almost Parmesan, like it's just hitting me right now. And of course, as always, save your rinds. These are so good to flavor soups and stews and just anything. It would have even been good to throw in there while it's cooking. Look, okay, this is what I love. Look at that creaminess. You just get this beautiful, umptious, creamy, oh, my mouth is watering. So at this point, you're done. You can just serve it. You can let it sit a little bit. I mean, the smell is, it's like amazing. And then you can do, you know, any assortment of anything you want. I like to put the asparagus and things kind of on top. You can just put a few pieces on top. You can do a few pieces of shrimp, kind of. You know, there's no right or wrong. You could throw all this into the risotto too and just have it all together and mix it. I just think it's kind of nice to have it separated, but wow. Not like tooting my own horn, but that is good flavor. It was delicious. It has all the components that you want in it. You can even on top of it, you can like have that bacon that we cooked in the beginning. Just crumble some of that on top, guys. Look at that. You're getting a little bit of everything. I mean, I think this is gonna make anyone that comes over to your house, I shouldn't keep eating and talking, want more because it has so much flavor. You get a little bit of that bacon. You get that hit of Parmesan. Even the lemon that we put on the asparagus and shrimp at the end, it is so bright and it really comes out and kind of just wakes everything up. This is delicious. It's fun for a weeknight. It's wonderful for a weekend. Whether you want like a nice meal for two, a meal for your family, it serves both. It's great leftover. I hope you try this because you know what? It's fun, it's something different, and that's what cooking is all about. So as always, what helps me the most is when you guys share these videos around, tag friends, share pictures. I love all that because that's what makes everyone see how easy this stuff is. If I can do it, I know you can do it. We can all do it. And the world could all use some good food. Make this, try it, enjoy it. Check my website, wiseguy.com for this recipe, so many other recipes. And until next time, just enjoy it. Enjoy the life, enjoy the process. We all need to slow down a little bit anyway. I'm gonna keep eating. Oh, it's good.